This is Jakarta, the capital and the largest city of Indonesia. It is also the most populous, with over 10 million inhabitants in 2020. Because of its fast-growing population, Jakarta has to deal with the challenges of water management, including sanitation and domestic wastewater treatment. Millions of urban dwellers in the city lack access to a simple, private facility to manage their bodily function in dignity and comfort, putting them at increased risk of disease.
According to the United Nations resolution in 2010, access to sanitation is human right, as it is essential to maintain human health. The right to sanitation means that everyone, without discrimination, is entitled to adequate, safe, accessible, and affordable sanitation. Sadly, this is not the case for many people in Jakarta who have no proper toilets at home, especially in slum areas where a significant proportion of the population dwell.
This study seeks to improve the current understanding on sanitation access and vulnerability. It examines the relevance of rights to sanitation for the urban poor in Jakarta's slum areas. As case studies, we selected 3 administrative neighborhoods in Jakarta called Rukun Warga or RW. They are RW2 and RW4 in Ancol, North Jakarta, and RW1 in Batu Ampar, East Jakarta. Each RW consists of several Rukun Tetangga or RT as the lowest administrative neighborhood division. These areas are classified as slum according to Jakarta Statistic Agency or BPS and represent different slum categories. RW2 in Ancol area, North Jakarta is the first study location. In 2017, BPS categorized this area as a moderate slum. To the locals, this RW is known as Kampung Bandan. This kampung is characterized by migrant population, predominantly from other parts of Java. There are also a small number of migrants from other islands such as Sumatra, Kalimantan, and Sulawesi who urbanized to work in Jakarta.
Warga kebanyakan yang datang dari khusus Jawa, Sunda, dan juga ada di luar wilayah Jawa seperti Medan, Bali, dan NTB.
It is one of the most densely populated areas in North Jakarta. The RW covers an area of about 4 hectares and has a total population of nearly 3,000 inhabitants. Here, one house may be occupied by between 1 to 12 people. It was also observed that many residents share their house by renting out some of their vacant rooms to non-relative, which mostly migrant workers.
Memakai pisang katanya.
Land tenure insecurities continue to be a dominant feature of this area. There are ongoing land disputes between the residents of this RW with PT Pembangunan Jaya Ancol. This company is a private developer of Taman Impian Jaya Ancol, otherwise known as Ancol Dreamland, a resort destination located adjacent to this RW.
status lahan di RW 02 Kelurahan Ancol ini masih di atas HPL PT Ancol. Dan juga ingin harapan warga masyarakat RW 02 ingin dibebaskan dari HPL Ancol supaya dibuatkan sertifikat menjadi hak milik.
Some parts of this RW have long dealt with regular flooding from both heavy rainfall and rising tidal wave. This residential area is also exposed to fire hazard. The last huge fire occurred in 2016 and destroyed hundreds of houses.
Ya, bencana yang rawan atau sering terjadi di wilayah RW 02 ini kebakaran dan banjir.
Ini tanggulnya kalau banjir sedikit itu airnya udah masuk semua. Ini kadang-kadang lewat segini. Kalau banjir gede banget.
According to our study, 84% of the houses are equipped with private toilet, consisting of a bathing area and latrine with septic tank in or attached to their houses. While this percentage is relatively high, the number only considers the presence of toilet in the houses. Private toilets are usually only accessible to the homeowners and their family members, while tenants must use public toilets.
Di rumah kita memiliki toilet sendiri.
Saya punya toilet sama kamar mandi di rumah.
In terms of water supply, 86% of the houses in this RW have access to piped water provided by Pamjaya.
Sumber air bersih di kita dapat dari air pump. Sebagian besar juga air pump di sini dan sebagian lagi beli dan punya air sumur.
Itu air pump. Air pump enggak tahu kadang 80, kadang 90.
Sumber air minum saya beli pakai air isi ulang. Kalau buat mandi pakai sumur bor.
In terms of sanitation technology, the majority of houses in this RW use manual water flush toilets. Toilets are typically constructed with ceramic tile or cement floor. As for the septic tank design, all of them are open bottom pit or tube loop, which rely on wastewater absorption in the subsoil and overflow to water bodies.
Kalau air cuci piring sama mandi ke got, tapi kalau dari WC ke septic tank.
Most septic tanks are located beneath the house, which makes it expensive and inconvenient for emptying. The narrow alleys in this area, about 1.5 meters wide, also make it difficult to provide access for dislodging.
Ini jalanan sempit, jadi truk, penjedot, WC nggak bisa masuk, biasanya di depan.
Tidak pernah disedot.
Moreover, some houses have both wells and septic tanks, either their own or a neighbor's. Located within less than 10 meters of the well, the tank poses a risk of contamination hazard. Residents without a private toilet at home have to rely on public toilets. There are some of these in RW2 Ancol. The residents must pay to use the facilities, adding to their daily living expenses.
Kamar mandi ada, tapi itu toilet nggak punya, toilet umum.
Kamar mandi ada, toilet umum.
Saat ini saya mengontrak dan ibu rumah pengontraknya itu tidak menyediakan air dan kamar mandi. Jadi saya ke toilet umum.
Kepengen punya toilet tapi biayanya nggak ada, tempatnya sempit.
Ya, keadaan tempat tinggalnya seperti ini, bagaimana punya toilet sendiri gitu kan. Juga kan butuh biaya gede kalau bikin toilet sendiri gitu.
Kalau saya sekali buang air Rp1.000, kalau 10 orang 10.000, kalau 2 kali 20.000.
Kalau untuk sendiri ya minimal 5.000, kalau bertiga ya 15.000.
Kalau untuk saya mandi Rp2.000, kalau untuk saya menyuci 1.000, dan kalau untuk saya buang air besar Rp1.000.
Itu saya udah terbiasa pakai toilet umum. Kalau banjir geli lah, jijik. Cuma kalau mau ke kamar mandi umum takut.
Ya kurang nyaman lah Mbak, kadang kan ngantri.
Kadang kalau di saat malam saya suka takut ya, terus saya suka nahan-nahan sampai azan subuh baru saya turun sekalian mandi. Dan kalau misalkan banjir, hujan, itu kadang-kadang kan suka becek juga, agak-agak geli. Nah terus ya begitulah namanya toilet umum ya, mau tidak mau.
In 2008, the World Bank mentioned that poor sanitation in Indonesia caused at least 120 million disease episodes and 50,000 premature deaths annually. However, the slum residents that we interviewed claim that they rarely had diarrhea.
Tidak pernah sakit diare.
Tidak.
2 bulan lalu saya pernah.
Jarang, tapi yang ganti-ganti sebulan sekali emang kena. Cucu yang kecil.
Bikin oralit sendiri. Kalau belum sembuh juga ya saya beli obat di apotek. Tidak pernah.
Tidak.
Alhamdulillah tidak pernah.
In this case, to communicate the risk of poor sanitation in an effective way, it is important to understand the reasons behind these perceptions and biases. This neighborhood has never received any sanitation-related programs other than the construction of 2 public toilets.
Program seperti membuat WC umum.
Ya kalau memang keadaannya, lingkungannya seperti ini ya penting juga gitu kan, karena pada semua nggak punya toilet sendiri-sendiri, jadi toilet umum adanya.
Kalau untuk membuang air besar itu kemana? Yang berkewajiban menyediakan sarana sanitasi jadi pemilik rumah masing-masing.
Saya sendiri sebagai yang punya rumah. Tidak pernah sama sekali masalah toilet, tidak pernah dapat bantuan dari pemerintah.
Sejauh ini belum ada bantuan untuk sanitasi ya.
Tidak.
Kalau masalah itu saya kurang tahu dan kurang paham.
Kepengen ini tetingin rumahnya, ininya diuruk. Soalnya kalau hujan sedikit tuh banjir.
Saya juga belum tahu untuk untuk sanitasi ini dari pemerintah itu kayak gimana bantuannya, belum tahu.
Tidak pernah dengar.
Tidak.
This is RW4 in Ancol area, North Jakarta, the second case study location. This RW is locally known as Kampung Muka. According to BPS data in 2017, this RW is categorized as light slum. RW4 is a densely populated area at the border of North Jakarta and Central Jakarta along railway tracks. It used to consist of housing for the workers of the National Railway Company going back to the Dutch colonial era. Its population has increased due to irrepressible migration rate in the 1960s. RW4 has more than 6,000 inhabitants. It is a heterogeneous neighborhood and most dwellers are migrants who urbanize to work in Jakarta.
Kalau gambaran penduduk di sini memang rata-rata pendatang, Pak. Jadi pendatang dari Pulau Jawa ada, dari Kalimantan, tapi mayoritas Pulau Jawa Timur dan Jawa Tengah itu yang paling banyak.
Most of them work as informal workers and make their living in places close to the slum, such as food sellers, street vendors, small kiosk owners, and other casual jobs. Some others are unemployed and rely on passive income from renting out public toilets and rooms for accommodation. Income levels vary among residents, even among people with similar jobs. There are homeowners and home tenants upon the socio-economic system that have been established for a long time in this area. Around 50% of the population in this area are renters who are typically migrant workers. The rooms that they rent are usually located on the second floor of the houses. Most houses in this area occupy land owned by the National Railway Company. Multiple evictions have happened over the years, but the neighborhood remains. This fast-growing settlement was divided into 9 artis in the 1960s. Today, only 7 artis survive.
Kalau secara umum lahan yang di RW 4 ini semuanya bermasalah, Mbak. Bermasalah dalam artian warga yang bermukim di RW 4 ini berdiri di atas HPL PT Kereta Api. Nah, jadi yang sedang kita perjuangkan sekarang adalah legalitas lahan dan keamanan bermukim. Terkait dengan legalitas lahan yang memang tidak dimiliki oleh warga, artinya warga tidak mempunyai dasar hukumnya untuk legalitas lahan. Banyak fasilitas yang seharusnya Pemda berikan, itu kita tidak mendapatkannya. Bahkan kita tidak boleh memasang listrik dan memasang air. Karena dari pihak PLN meminta setiap warga yang mau memasang listrik harus ada pernyataan PM1 dari kelurahan. Sementara kelurahan tidak berani mengeluarkan karena ini jalurnya abu-abu. Dan untuk kerawanan penggusuran, karena beberapa kali di daerah DRT 2, sebagian wilayah Kampung Muka yang di pinggiran sungai, di pinggiran rel, itu sempat terjadi beberapa kali penggusuran yang warganya sebagian besar sudah kita minta Pemda untuk memfasilitasi ke rusun. 96 yang sempat chaos, artinya memakan korban juga, karena pada saat itu penggusurannya itu juga ada sedikit pemaksaan. Memang sebagian warga sudah dapat ganti rugi, cuman karena tidak sesuai, akhirnya warga tetap bertahan, sehingga sempat terjadi chaos yang cukup besar waktu 96 itu.
Evictions continue under Jakarta's governorship of Basuki Cahayapurnama in 2014 to 2016, specifically the row of houses that occupied the canal's perimeter in the west side of this area.
Di sini, sepanjang bantaran sungai ini, dari jembatan Kunir sampai di Kota Beos, ini kurang lebih ratusan rumah yang tergusur.
The election for the governor and vice governor of Jakarta in 2017 was an important momentum for the residents of RW4 Ancol. With a relatively large number of voters, they asked the commitment of gubernatorial candidates to grant them legal ownership over the land and properties they had occupied for decades. Candidate Anies Baswedan and his running mate Sandiaga Uno gave their pledge and signed a political contract. When the pair won the election and became Jakarta's governor and vice governor, the people have high hopes that they will not be evicted and will finally receive land title. Some parts of this RW get flooded frequently due to poor drainage networks. This area is also exposed to fire hazard.
Nah, kebakaran di RW 4 ini memang jadi masalah utama.
Untuk daerah rawan banjir di RW 04 Kelurahan Ancol itu posisinya ada di RT 1 RW 4. Nah, di situ kenapa sering terjadi banjir kalau turun hujan deras? Karena drainasenya tidak bisa menampung.
According to our study, 66% of the houses in RW4 Ancol have private toilets. However, the number only considers the presence of toilets in the houses. For tenants, access to private bathrooms is even less likely as these are rarely provided by the homeowners.
Kontrakan 4 kamar, 4 pintu, sebulannya 200.000, tapi nggak ada kamar mandinya. Mereka yang buat kontrak pada ke toilet umum masing-masing.
In terms of clean water supply, there are 3 types of clean water sources. Pam Jaya, which provide pipe water supply, water sellers in jerrycan that get their water from the filling center, and groundwater wells that spread throughout the settlement.
Dari membeli air pikulan, jadi eceran. Kebutuhan air per hari untuk memasak 1 pikul, dalam arti harga 1 pikulnya 5.000. Kemudian untuk mencuci seminggu 2 kali itu perlu 15.000 kali 2, jadi 30.000 seminggu.
Dari full pump.
Most private bathrooms in the houses are also connected to septic tanks. They are typically open bottom pits or jubluk that rely on wastewater absorption in the subsoil. The septic tanks are primarily used for holding fecal sludge or black water. Meanwhile, grey water from activities such as bathing or doing laundry is released directly into the drainage ditch.
Ada di atas katanya. Kalau dari toilet tembang air besar itu banyak ke septic tank. Tapi kalau saluran buat nyuci piring apa itu Pak, saluran air. Selama ini yang ini belum pernah.
Public toilet facilities in this area are essential. There are many families without private bedrooms at home.
Selama ini kita tidak mempunyai toilet dan kamar mandi karena situasi yang sangat terbatas. Karena memang tempatnya tidak ada, kita tempatnya hanya sempit untuk sebidang bangunan saja. Ya selama ini sih nyaman-nyaman saja, tidak ada masalah karena keterpaksaan juga harus kita memakai toilet umum itu. Sebetulnya penting sekali keberadaan toilet itu karena kita setiap hari harus membutuhkan toilet itu. Untuk menggunakan toilet umum per hari, kita untuk mandi saja kurang lebih 12.000 karena kita terdiri dari 3 anggota keluarga.
With tenants as the primary users, these public facilities are spread and generally located close to the rented houses. There are many public toilets in RW4 Ancol that are run for profit by the locals. They are residents who have the capital to build sanitation facilities on their property and then rent them out. These facilities can be used for bathing, washing, and toilet use. Users are required to pay in return, usually between 1.000 to 2.000 rupiah per use.
Kurang lebihnya saya usaha MCK ini udah 30 tahun kurang lebih. Tarif toilet itu rumah air besar itu 1.000 rupiah. Itu kalau mandi 2.000. Nyuci baju ya Bu tergantung cuciannya. Kalau cuciannya itu banyak 3.000. Kalau cuma nonap kalau 1 ember 2.000. Waktu sebelum pandemi kita tarifnya kurang lebihnya ya pendapatan saya 300.000 juga alhamdulillah dapat deh seperti itu. Tapi selama pandemi ini ya kurang lebihnya kita sudah cari uang 150.000 aja udah susah banget.
Despite the condition, many residents that we interviewed claim that they rarely got sick from diarrhea or other waterborne diseases.
Selama ini alhamdulillah tidak pernah menderita sakit diare. Ya.
Alhamdulillah enggak sehat.
Jarang sih.
Alhamdulillah selama ini kita sehat-sehat saja.
Alhamdulillah enggak pernah ya.
Alhamdulillah tidak pernah.
Related to the health impacts of poor sanitation practices, the residents' view and understanding with the risk of poor sanitation need to be considered in formulating interventions. This neighborhood received an offer of assistance from the government for the first time in 2020 in the form of communal septic tanks. Unfortunately, due to limited land owned by the residents, this program did not run well.
Kalau peningkatan layanan sanitasi kita belum pernah menerima, ini baru tahun 2020 kemarin akhir kita menerima program dari CAP itu komunal. Jadi septic tank komunal, kita dapat 12 titik di RW 4 ini untuk menggunakan septic tank komunal ini. Lahannya Mbak, kita keterbatasan dengan lahan karena lahan yang ada di pemukiman warga ini itu pas banget dengan lahan yang digunakan untuk tempat tinggal. Jadi untuk sanitasi, kamar mandi, mereka tidak punya lahan lagi
untuk selama ini kita belum pernah mendapatkan untuk pelayanan MCK. Jadi kalau toh seandainya ada bantuan pun kita akan susah untuk menempatkan bantuan itu dan berupa apa bantuannya gitu.
The third case study is RW1 in Batu Ampar area, East Jakarta. This is part of the popular Kampung Condet, a small enclave for Betawi, the indigenous people of Jakarta.
Saya orang Betawi asli. Saya tinggal di sini sejak lahir. Penduduk di sini asli Betawi, tetapi lebih banyak pendatang barunya.
RW1 Batu Ampar is a dense and overpopulated neighborhood. It covers around 6 hectares with a population of about 2,500 inhabitants. According to BPS, this area is categorized as light slum.
Kalau pekerjaan warga 80% pedagang, sisanya perkantoran.
Unlike most other slums, the tenure status of RW1 Batu Ampar is formal and the residents occupy legal lands. Many of the Betawi people inherit their land and houses from their parents or their previous generations.
Status lahan di RW 01 itu legal. Jadi tanahnya udah bersertifikat hak milik adat.
This RW is situated along the Ciliwung River. Some parts of this neighborhood are flood-prone due to the overflowing from the surrounding river.
Kalau kita musim hujan itu ada banjir. Kalau hujan 1 jam atau 2 jam aja kali itu naik karena kalinya udah pendangkalan.
Ketika terjadinya hujan dengan intensitas tinggi, seluapan sungai itu mengalami ketinggian di atas batas normal sehingga terjadilah banjir. Kondisi banjir ketika terjadi itu ya kepanikan terutama bagi rumah-rumah yang ada di wilayah bantaran sungai tersebut. Dan kalau untuk ketinggian banjir itu rata-rata kurang lebih antara 80 sampai 90 cm, kurang lebih seukuran pinggang orang dewasa itu.
Kalau lagi musim kemarau, sungainya itu banyak sampah, bau dan kering airnya. Tapi kalau lagi musim hujan itu mengakibatkan kebanjiran bagi warga yang di bawah sampai 1 meter banjirnya.
Based on our study, all houses in this area have private toilets.
Ada memiliki kamar mandi pribadi.
Ya, saya mempunyai kamar mandi dan toilet pribadi di rumah saya.
However, almost all houses in this area do not use septic tanks. Fecal disposal from toilets and grey water go directly into the river without passing through a septic tank. Residents typically use pipes to drain black water and grey water into the river without any treatment.
Saya tidak mempunyai septic tank dan Pembuangannya dibuang ke sungai dan melalui pipa-pipa panjang.
Saluran kita langsung ke saluran ke kali.
In terms of clean water sources, most residents in RW1 Batu Ampar rely on groundwater. Most of them use groundwater for both consumption and sanitation activities.
Sumber air minum di rumah kami dari sumur dan hampir semua warga sini memakai sumber air minumnya dari sumur. Iya, karena air sumurnya sangat bersih, jernih dan tidak berbau dan bisa untuk dimasak dan diminum.
Dari jet pump, air pribadi, kalau buat minum kurang bagus, cuman kalau buat mandi bagus. Jadi kita kalau minum beli air galon.
In this neighborhood, residents that we interviewed claim that they rarely got sick from diarrhea or other waterborne diseases.
Jarang sekali jika terkena diare, saya cukup minum obat warung dan oralit.
Alhamdulillah nggak ada, belum pernah. Tidak ada. Tipes sudah pernah.
Iya, saya pernah kena sakit tipes 1 kali.
A communal septic tank program from the government was offered for this neighborhood. Unfortunately, this offer was rejected by the residents.
Di RW 01 sebenarnya banyak ditawarkan program berkaitan dengan sanitasi, terutama masalah komunal septic tank yang sanitasi istilahnya pembuatan septic tank massal, tapi di masyarakat ini lahannya nggak ada, dibebaskan pun warganya nggak mau. Alasannya apa saya tanya? Alasannya mereka ini pasti nanti bau.
Itu masyarakat sendiri, masyarakat pribadi.
In this case, the residents' understanding and belief in terms of risk of poor sanitation practices could potentially hamper programs to improve access to sanitation.
This video provides some insights of the complex realities of access to sanitation and vulnerability among urban poor dwellers, including how poor sanitation risks are perceived, prioritized, and managed. By better understanding the access to sanitation of urban poor dwellers in practice, the 3 case study give us an opportunity to identify solutions to fulfill the right to sanitation for all more effectively.